Imagine a world where every conversation is dominated by debates, where winning an argument is seen as the pinnacle of intelligence. But have you ever paused to consider, does arguing truly signify strength, or could it be a mask for something deeper, perhaps even weakness? Today we explore the profound ideas of Friedrich Nietzsche, one of history's most provocative thinkers, to unravel why, in his eyes, arguing is often the refuge of the weak. By the end of this journey, you may not only question how you handle conflicts but also see human interaction in an entirely new light. Nietzsche's philosophy challenges many societal norms, and his perspective on arguing is no exception. He believed that true strength does not lie in dominating a conversation or winning a debate but in the courage to stand firm in one's convictions, even in silence. For Nietzsche, those who constantly argue are often compensating for something. They lack inner clarity and self-assurance. To understand this idea, we must first explore his broader views on human nature and power dynamics. Let's begin with a question. Why do we argue? Is it to prove a point, assert dominance, or defend our sense of self? Nietzsche would argue that at the heart of most disputes lies a fragile ego, a need to validate oneself through the submission or agreement of others. This, he believed, was a hallmark of weakness. Truly strong individuals do not seek external validation. They are content with their own truths, unshaken by the dissent of others. In his masterpiece Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche introduces the concept of the Übermensch, the overman, who transcends societal norms and lives authentically. The overman does not engage in trivial disputes. Why? Because his focus is on self-overcoming, not proving himself to others. Nietzsche believed that those who constantly argue are trapped in ressentiment, a reactive state in which one defines oneself in opposition to others rather than through one's own values. This mode of living is inherently weak because it places control of one's emotions and identity in the hands of external forces. Think about the last argument you had. Was it truly about the topic at hand, or was there an underlying emotional need to be seen as intelligent, right, or worthy? Nietzsche would say that the strongest individuals recognize this impulse and resist it. Instead of reacting, they reflect. Instead of arguing, they rise above. This does not mean Nietzsche advocated for passivity or silence in the face of injustice. Quite the opposite. He valued action over words. For him, strength was in demonstrating one's values through life and choices, not through empty rhetoric. The truly powerful do not need to convince others of their beliefs, they embody them. Nietzsche observed that arguing rarely changes minds, it only entrenches positions. As he wrote, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will often be lonely and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. This idea is particularly relevant in today's world, where social media amplifies every disagreement, turning minor differences into full-blown conflicts. Nietzsche's perspective reminds us to ask, what am I trying to achieve here? Is this argument worth my energy, or am I merely reacting to the expectations of others? His philosophy challenges us to step back, to focus on building inner strength instead of tearing others down. For Nietzsche, it starts with self-knowledge. He believed that most people are unaware of their true motives, fears, and desires. Without this awareness, we become slaves to external forces, easily provoked, easily manipulated. Inner strength, on the other hand, comes from deep self-understanding. It is the ability to remain grounded and unshaken despite external chaos. Nietzsche's critique of arguing also ties into his views on truth. He believed that absolute truth is an illusion, a construct created by humans to make sense of the world. If truth is subjective, then what is the point of arguing over it? Instead of debating universal truths, Nietzsche encouraged individuals to pursue their own truth, to explore their own values, beliefs, and purpose rather than conform to societal norms or seek validation through arguments. This idea is both liberating and challenging. It requires letting go of the need to be right, embracing uncertainty, and focusing on self-discovery. Nietzsche's philosophy pushes us to ask, who am I beyond my arguments? What do I truly stand for? Am I living authentically, or merely reacting to the expectations of others? At the core of Nietzsche's philosophy is the will to power, the fundamental drive behind all human actions. However, he argued that true power does not come from controlling others but from mastering oneself. This distinction is crucial when considering why people argue. Most arguments stem from a misguided attempt to assert dominance or control over someone else's perspective. Yet Nietzsche found this behavior troubling because it often masks an internal void, a lack of self-assurance, clarity, or purpose. People argue not because they are strong but because they feel threatened, incomplete, or insecure. Nietzsche often criticized herd mentality, where individuals conform to societal norms and seek validation through collective agreement. They argue to reinforce their place within the group, to prove their loyalty to shared beliefs, or to silence dissenting voices that challenge their comfort zones. For Nietzsche, this was a sign of weakness. The truly strong individual, the Übermensch, does not need the approval of the herd. They live by their own values even when those values go against the grain. So, how do we break free from this cycle? Nietzsche would argue that it begins with a radical shift in focus, from seeking external validation to cultivating internal growth. Instead of trying to convince others, we should channel that energy into becoming more authentic and resilient. This requires courage, the courage to face our fears, confront our flaws, and embrace the discomfort of change. It also requires humility, the willingness to admit that we do not have all the answers and that our perspective is just one of many. Nietzsche was not advocating for isolation. He valued meaningful relationships and intellectual exchanges. However, these interactions should be rooted in mutual respect and a shared desire for deeper understanding, rather than the need to dominate. When we approach conversations with curiosity instead of defensiveness, we create space for genuine connection. What does true strength look like in a disagreement? According to Nietzsche, it is not about winning the argument but about transcending it. Strong individuals listen with an open mind, engage with ideas rather than egos, remain grounded in their values even when challenged. They do not shy away from difficult conversations, but neither do they feel the need to prove their worth through confrontation. Nietzsche also spoke about the power of silence in the face of conflict. Silence, in his view, is not submission but self-assurance. It is the mark of someone who knows their worth and does not need to prove it. The next time you feel the urge to argue, pause and reflect. What am I trying to achieve? Is this an opportunity for growth, or am I simply reacting to my ego's demands? Nietzsche's wisdom challenges us to move beyond arguments and embrace the path of strength, wisdom, and self-overcoming, even when it is the harder path. By choosing self-mastery over confrontation, we free ourselves to live a life of purpose, authenticity, and true power.